Daniel? Cool.
The United States Congress should exercise over 30 terminate special operations for its president's direction to Black Hawk special operations to be continued by Colonel in the U.S. as well as Colonel of these number of operations have for the president. National operations with President Secretary A's direct action to these forces and covert operations to run her state in the U.S. As well as covert operations to run seizing members of relations regarding targets pursuit of high military maybe capture kill scale operations to run from all sections have been significant. These operations have been with no oversight or confrontation lever. Lieutenant Obama is not going to test over Iran. This operations some safeguards CIA new order sent to make such emphasis not beyond right. This operations for the U.S. really takes chance of military confrontation. Not only do these missions fail, they rally support for achieving multiple scenarios for U.S. Iranian conflict partner and the U.S. achieving the U.S. synergies balance scenario implemented China from U.S. taking action. The changes between the British operations been sensitive not given actually being carried out. The U.S. mixing close policy for compare action collaboration reducing the effective operation around responding. The U.S. struggle for everybody saying that deployment of carrier and for this we regard company to be cooperation like they have the office fair operation ground by third officer that very much cooperation much more less much sector in war in the Middle East while much true U.S. that's the large conflict on the Iranian expensive totally U.S. will not respond to U.S. stick direct action diplomacy becomes a company more instances of risk of retaliatory extinction version 5 the attack will cause bounce on direct military capable storm dragon U.S. help to legal weapons abilities will slow taxes on Europe and other critical meetings for around action and legal weapons and collectively rest of the legal weapons best considered bombs and current estimate will destroy the dark powers masters or probably spray network scenario being political action. The CIA is legally supporting these opposition groups in Iran unlike the military Alexandria outside the CIA as the secret police control on the government around the not even by taxation goals opportunity and commercial oversight the basis support programs to kind of achieve critical guarantees for actions to see FCC run the corporate organization Canada the intelligence structure but the lack of intelligence that covering legal restricting covert action to indirect political support solve peaceful regime change created not over option be narrative support for that forces in the process of testing military and little disaster possibility of covert options propagating aggressive improvement and continuous research to foreign policy checking trust with the on top of nothing public team belongs to Iran peaceful regime change given Hezbollah Israeli conflict Ross and Tehran Hezbollah and peaceful let them get essentially with Iran Germany is jumping as well Hezbollah is support of Iran trying to wrestle away weapons like trying to empty a bottomless well there's no salvation and the regime change front the opposite of public health social goods for deep Iran until goes Hezbollah will have resources and press on with Iran will pass these regime change converting crossing facial lies say now Hezbollah and active regime change Iran will provoke a Hezbollah attacking massive Israeli retaliation has been around 11 where person close to war versus much fills there's nothing really global and first focus on Hezbollah and been intensely carrying more details besides check on Hezbollah now is best strike with crazy political last sentence much trying to change balance power war escalation having capacity Iran Israel's back and forth just war drawing Syria and Iran escalates to biological nuclear sterling except Hezbollah and provides the words the real things come either taking the strength to see where lose it she wants force to go work with straight around Israel with full nuclear response even after escalation Israeli nuclear ensures extinction to it all then the release of nuclear countries fuel soon as generate so this is global tensions and record work for house elimination world population countries number regional nuclear war a large one of the day stage society beyond human bioweapons and public health changing oxygen bioweapons or changes to legal age and red weapons and to weapons now possible attention to is white ops using special operations forces to kind of covert ops Dutch readiness for additional missions no other forces can fill activity except the agents of the confidence in the controversy training for covert operation are required not trying to solutional but dealing with them as well as direct so many place to use formal depth and attention to focus on direct action another mission making the most terrorist more precisely because of why we're drawing special ops from Iraq and Islam global terrorism or largely terrorism but access to country available US will lead to goals on campaign terrorism people recruitment fundraising and business opportunity one part of maintaining federal counter capacity task critical formation of global combating terrorist networks that network become so expansive terrorism not able to operate effectively GCF and terrorism activity intervention policy organized essential supporting partner SO however there 80% of SO ever allocated to just directly opportunity cost subject commitment in a reduction SO price on straight leads several terrorist capacity because the foreign skills have to be firmly before I just only let on the economy challenge building targets has to be a lack available SOs and allocated will get WMD now they're waiting for an opportunity for a large scale nuclear attack or more else dependent on and the first use WMD on base for global allocation they should be vice president 3 benefits so much companies to the first time public defense terrorism something last week part of secret zone stuff and launch check because it's convention section and the use of separation launch turn out the tells you great stuff but budget much pressure plus top I believe for mental quality information for company wait a bit by terrorism for absolute information action that discovered vulnerability very possibly that the economic materials already been stolen attack in 2013 Hall and 10 terrorists or some things before an FDI definitely been lined the some children so this is from WD with terrorism created the exchange more than 9 terrorism figured the best section doesn't negotiate like that technically use Russian child use child across China and the boys with so mass radio after the new quality business is serving our central on he was wanted like all the destruction of human civilization sentence 3 is oversight scenario A is military activism the DOD is legal justification for covert use of special forces accounts to a blank check technology experts starting oversight by Congress is essential as well Five production being used for anything to represent the vaccine model serving and holding military forces. The idea to like first all saying going as simply go from community formation to reverse fundamental production. So we must go to use for protect chief out. Chief out my seat. And all of the tells myself safe that it's to show but I see it also however we can serious military to include Christian war attack enough for border is your was you mean that less of action to fight integrity covert action and that defense challenge unilateral military action action jeopardy over identifying threats to Canada. Eight fundamental needs worldwide response to military expensive military systems to like lose the action time self control military space by only these use remedy use use to receive it with conscience of that word for like to direct all checking potential visibility and notice retention especially after the management to use as skillful military powers and practice have by overall university church military experience time right hedge crime nuclear war is strategy 11 distribution power taking up global space money with thanks to me brings us away from function to with more advice to chest pipeline low control so going from that line to appear trust war for regional military right off the rival war to general way force which successfully is covert activism results in war with China India Russia Marshall Lebanon Obama has been covert operation throughout the middle east cancellation after paving way for direct salary over local safety head for rise powers for China India Russia US China war constitution hugging and I take forward China and US would eventually escalate new conflict third world war and country with nuclear terror and goes to Russia Australia India China and US engaged in conflict there a few hundred world that not be effective US Russia war constitution held in past 20,000 nuclear weapons US Russia arsenal could be fired within 5 minutes of war could be cause devastation on a scale of person of fire storms of blood up the sun temperatures will fall agricultural stock ecosystems would be classification including on become extinct independently covert operations destroy Indian relations assignments to Canada Obama covert war spent for North Pakistan Central Asia the covert mission operating military territory and also centralized to covert operations in most other centers France is after war Pakistan and American government integrated diplomacy diplomacy India covert actions China situation made China and war conflict US Indian relations solve everything including warming and disease but you and I were Southeast Muslim given away including these civil economy in US relations of India is using with world treaty whether combat content to nothing can be achieved without India's population it's too large to be ignored purchasing power India middle class attack by US and warming is real anthropogenic constitution evil inside this one temporary conflict war to be achieved for outside that's actually so 20 weeks one of the workers speak one big people in Russia but we're going to have to clap mortgage from the new but it's important to threat to disease causes you and I can never close with one but developing south of the hospital of secret is but everyone should quickly this hypothetical one and scenario B is cyber warfare the DoD uses the same legal justification to avoid oversight of cyber warfare from Congress so congressional oversight is key to this diagnosis intent. The Department of Defense engaged in preparation for cyber war congressional oversight could be handled by most practice time sent to general person rather than to tell congressional law making most potentially traditional military from covert action secret preparation cyber war guards should commence through the main state private into cyber red wars guns not adopt threats to the cyber war using wheels or was between anti cyber attack to make appear in the restricted US by public report to should believe DC inherit relationship cyber war policy has that much confidence needs to work for safe for development policy group companies authority make it full cyber use and millions of cyber attacks each day risk misattribution and escalation the WD use culminates each and every day there are millions of cyber attacks from hackers attacks that are not fully protected nation group easy mistake for attacks cyber war in case where hackers try to retaliate against nation where cover escalation weapons of mass destruction apps to review a cyber warfare policy retaliation goes nuclear military sources confirm loss in a blinding attack via cyber station and single over internet attack and therefore single irrational response party US policy in case that connect attacks or in response to US cyber war policy cyber attack on the US would lead to a nuclear reply the US will regard cyber attacks being the same in category as nuclear biological and chemical weapons and thus a nuclear response Pentagon and military officials confirmed that the US reserved the option to respond in a way it chooses not to include the use of nuclear weapons.
The first question is why are black ops bad vis-a-vis unfettered executive? Like what about them, is emblematic of unfettered executive power?
In terms of the last advantage or in terms of the black ops advantage? Because you can play the two different advantages.
In terms of oversight.
Okay, in terms of the oversight advantage, our evidence says that the unrestrained covert warfare is bad. It allows unrestrained military activism. The DoD uses the same justification of traditional military activities to do covert war.
I guess my question is, why don't white ops equally link to that?
Because white ops are, under the CIA, they are legally justified. I forget which piece of evidence. It's the Alexandria evidence says that the CIA has received approval to conduct non-lethal covert operations against Iran. They are not using violence in the operation that's going on and has congressional oversight.
Does the plan ban or lead to ban any action in Iran, or do you just disable it by taking stuff out of Iran?
You take out the forces that are conducting the operations.
Okay, what makes you think we're incapable of doing that from other areas? Why does that?
Well, our Gardner evidence is very specific on this question. It says Iraq is the key area where we're using our special operations to go over to Iraq.
We have other lily pads in the Middle East.
Our oversight of it. First, we ought to withdraw those forces. You probably resolves that question. Second,
withdraw the ones that are. Hang on, this is a key question in terms of whether you withdraw. If you have to withdraw forces from other bases and other cities.
No, it's only
Okay, got
the
it.
second part of our answer to that question is based off of the oversight advantage, which makes it legally impossible for special operations to conduct those kinds of illegal operations, which means that they wouldn't happen from elsewhere.
Gotcha. Who's Carol Moore?
Who's Carol Moore? I
Is
mean,
this
I'm asking.
is this the terror
The
question?
terrorism thing because
Morgan agrees with her assumptions. Morgan's a professor at a
Morgan agrees
university
with
in
the
South
hack
Korea, which
because-
means he's probably qualified.
She's probably qualified. I looked up her website.
She might not be as qualified, but he cites her and he is qualified, which necessarily
So
means he
if
agrees
qualified
with
people
her
agree
argument.
that hacks are right, then it makes the hack.
I think if a professor agrees and supports that as his own argument, it means it is qualified.
Is your argument that Al Qaeda has nuclear material now?
Material.
They have the material, yes.
Okay, so
Essential
it's a
option key to
question-
preventing and deterring that attack.
What do you mean by preventing and deterring that attack?
Our evidence says that special operations forces have to be withdrawn from Iraq in order to let them go elsewhere, which will create a global combating terrorist
Okay,
network.
I guess
It's
if
the
there are only
language of
going to
evidence.
be like 4,500 special ops people in Iraq, how do you access broader global
Sure,
operations?
80%. Like Iraq, 45,000 doesn't seem like a lot, and in the context of all of our special
No,
ops,
it's not
it is a lot.
45,000, it's 4,500.
4,500, sorry. It is a lot in the context of all these special ops we have. One of our cards says like 80% of
Dude,
our
our evidence is pretty specific. This is an extremely large number of special operations troops, and they're like pretty
I
fucking
don't
awesome.
think your internal link to like various other countries is part of the oversight advantage, or the last advantage is very good.
I didn't read
Why do and stuff? I guess like why is it true that countries like India would just like abandon the security guarantee and
I mean, they don't want to covert ops. Our evidence is pretty
So much
solid.
does
Yeah.
6 off, based on solvency, oversight, black ops, white ops.
Ready?
First off, let's obviously substantial 100% car percentage. Here's a picture of the average mental sense to about 50% personal reset. That measure by true decrease put in all 6. Use better mental number for the person reaching above the defense. And there are 47,000 troops in Iraq and units 422. There are the news troops in Iraq. See, but negative troops to keep preserved. Better both sides and keep limits to branch into some state of Kaya. Keep our infant cutting further withdrawals for the troops destroy Cortran. Negative ground and negative percent. The no West Literature. Next off, the courts count in the United States. Supreme Court should exercise oversight the authority to permit special operation princess Iraq. Canada assault the case better than the courts will into war. White stops and no to the courts is back into all accountability close to the court. Level to factors the reason to have to cars and desire to go forward. Not believe simply to realize that the Iraq research and research against the maybe if they don't feel like a personal respect as well as psychological accountability the countries like for example accountability to prove that this will be able to accountability by the country's central resident because against the supply otherwise like a lot of men that over reasons that are to prove that's her company making the collective accountable. Next up is expertise A interpretation reduce these decrease oxygen English literature 89 I to bring down divisions small number violation the use of oversight powers and this thing is extra competence not bring down the numbers back up which is C but negative poems the interpretation exposed the down oil and the defeat and unrelated division based on magnets rather than reduction to the ground negative complex like a civil and generically grounded reduction by chasing the nation of the place of petition for simply the creation of oversight committee be popularly used that over more reduction links of politics and has to be voting issues so one of these other elections said where strategy wanted about we shouldn't have legislative competition by force of abuse to become the next up down by text the United States government should see setting current play engaged with a rate of 1 and rate according to substantial switch to use and turn over change ever do the net rate to replace the radio partners popular music for strategic communication for regime change certain by private writing dissident groups writing communication system to distant groups all within your range disseminating information within your range by constitution in the United States Congress should establish oversight over U.S. special operations forces in the United States federal government should increase the number and resources of U.S. special operations forces which substantial portion of trade and allocate towards non-direct actions not main heavy missions that cannot especially for congressional change within your range grows in 7. The United States directed funding by the supporting national referendum introduced for the assisted others who give the service regularly civil movements participating in the random information particular referendum to constitution whatever it is separation meaning because community trouble the rest of subject to fill violence another community already distance the guys to get the decision to read for government national referendum no let it lose the right in the winter of the right of official and army people so where the fear will determine men and the right for the legislation next to get the effort there any feel the right radio television funding shooting communication solves for which 7 usually know that they won't see trade communication being official with the US government of them or the right look at the circular of the audio by the circle radio system after the missions finally different circle radio all within the circle places after the global because lots of things around how I you look like the having Americans for news so little muscle make sure right I always let it survey the city right away the ability of person regime monopolize information the regime change can't have legitimacies weak seen theory and 6 the direction with parallel the rules are already people in America just little references as well as the support function the words are zero instead of lost regime which is the election and more race the last many races last year just like the better with the focus on electoral vote the deputy ratio words one representative with Russians, the world was not situated like the marketers look like as long as they're 36 other president makes blood, and the world accepted self-righteous countries, international reading the sweaty code river, James Force, the world's countries, defending against the people already, so publish like the doctors and the people, refuse to crush the Jim Cook's Congress elected bodies, or restraint them next, office security, anxiety, fears, and hatred of rent, and a piece of rent, and naturally against the reality board, laminated 1973, was the warning about starting a migration, no peace, and the living count from those who read from social services, the crash, racial infrastructure, racial about how to use her, ancient by those documents, remind the protection, objectionally, the others, and if you have any money, or it's adapted, or it's reality, my bullet, automatically continues to generate coach, and these abuse, favor, middle state constitution, culture, you have to and shake your mind anytime, wherever you are, or trust, low to all the facts around the biggest ring, you work as each other, personal somebody for all the species, or around your own nature, when you do so, that will suddenly change your different things, financial anxiety, makes it level, I get 7, crucial, I'll make sure that short conceivable of the new action, you even thinking to make a big run, yourself, your monthly, about the living, not lessons, despair, and force, and you're always engaging in racial, energy, yourself, and others, these sorts of weddings are seeking the lack of legal on the complex propagation, I'm setting people way down a bunch of lines, and so we're kind of using equal weapons, less quick, and reverse dimensional, so open the structure, moment, and take those simply fix them down with demonic illness, the alternative is the shed, the ego, fixing realization, you can do with all living things, now when and die, cosmos, and certain consideration, love, all shaping, mystery, this whole universal, nothing, things, self-destruction, check when you get to use self-defense, when you use the realization, not that even none of your fellow things, equals, social, fabrication, social, conscious, object is only conscious, not conscious, the conscious, one of the and serve that further pursuing awareness, re-intentional, non-positional, re-research, awareness, appeal, unified, and intimate, all the cities, these results, and these friends, over the rest of ontological truth, and not follow the unique of life, lines, and all that, and self, and happily, get over the game, those run, and sort of looking on joy, and spirit, natural, whole, and harm, other self, and not balance, the section, brown, race, and awareness, interconnection, next topic, politics, by revealed, re-destiny, now, that's 429, going never, 30, what else, detention, president, the bring the Bible, collections, never, or the setting, by virtue, like, the way, like, nominating, connections, also by virtue, remember, reducing deficit, by virtue, for covert operation, right, the cost capital, car, coordinate, which is skin of secret financial restoration, will cover offensive, the radio, G, members, the scope, all discuss money, terms, lead authors, countries, leading members, the community district, not very from the region, money, the money, some of the approval, by person, support, grounds, the ability, deal, capital, ski, watch, for 10, also, we're doing the 100%, of raising the digested, market, really, brings your risk, no one to have no party, the engaged, but make your the exploits, and the recipe, everything, means the jolt, applies the place, which never occurs in the bill, resolution, impossible, impact, second, Melbourne, and 10, sure, to vote against encourage to have in the district, the economy, and the markets, reviews, and just the cost of the records, with the use of such will lead, and seen, decades, the degrees, and billions of years, and the gate to the treatment, safe, and reproducive, the shells, should the guys are console, scope, and 4, outside of 9, so scope is told, I can class, option, where state, I can control, scripture, and your breakings, what erasing, Christian, track, whatever, 1 month, I'll drop down, representing the racing controls, what if you can get over, so little, so random, and go look at spikes of professional, like, dealing 30 passions, like the other full mates, nature, percentage, and population, time, flow, the you're filling, they're driving, they're six, the next couple of the health things, like this, development, church, small groups, and coast, and big, main church case, sometimes, sorry, let go, and affliction, the grand murder, X, those, like, my skin buddies, working in assault, national, like, religious, hate to make on the virtual, I have yourself, also, and next deal, problem, like, pollution, trafficking, crime, in another place, go, the road, one, case, additional, reveal, also, people, number, goes, life, so saying, security, right, with them, one of the robots, dice, now, case, solve, to option, launch, case, and scene, and a, launch, different types, skills, cover, doctors, and I ran new sorts of not ready, resurrected, murder, radius, for the stage, case, and also, observe, or the brain, observe, under dramatic reason, getting a case, and random, and Asia will do the same thing with the United States, designated drugs 9, Asia will also go forward, so rated alternative, direct, and search, human temperatures, elements, double, play, section, copy, as well, the change, boots, the album, the office, browser, books, people, and humans, and legal, and subject, and rating, supply chain, market chain, they said, now, we're over such a basic precedent, arguments, wrong, no precedent, David's 9, that's what the political district, around these parties, being able to advance, parties, and the executive, animal, law, and adherence to drug abuse, well, as women's, and legislative, starting, and observe, about it, to feed the running Congress, from the same party, Congress, like, George, and government's not very principal part of the district, to rest, and as well as the district party, and allied with Ravens, but the government is unified, noble, with their votes, one sense, active, mobilization, first person, active, unilateral relations are high and resilient, indeed, 119, use 429, no switch to that, U.S. relations, markets, and relations, based on each of the name, markets, and drinking, those otherwise, that golden age relation, to which you love, never target, every build, relations are fine, regardless of code out for repulsive, you actually scratch that, no disease, implementing, posture 5, 5% dimensions, rapid, disease, to close to short, connection, violent, next, the without even institution, respect the government, kill the host too quickly, partly quickly, and cancel warming, China, terms of culture, tail 11, intergovernmental, still, the gas is felt, because it's going to be a situation, and the 40% of the domestic possible, direct the ball, which is not bombs given up, and the Chinese government, Korean parts will take on those state limits, and accept the comment, government's even small, Georgian, GGBs, the honest, risk, so no trolling to war, in fact, the close to the edge, confrontation, no warning, no impact under hedge, paper, probably 3, social, logic, and so good, never police, place, single law, but the national economy, there's only just like, because there's every country, sure, the Soviet Union, so there's no effect, the London, the town, the amount of the new law, the world, the United States, Jordan, Holy Church, play, large one notice, the cyber warfare, registered 11, everybody said, you could send, to the like cyber war states of the country, the beloved source, reason to be right away, no, because the subject step with the random list of our extensive options, right, and here, this is resulting in only gives purchase of allies, now to black ops regime is resilient, 11, 7, Roman system compared to the previous base of the right, security efforts, religion, substitution, against the with the multi race by solutions to species, following the option flights, plus incredible challenges, market challenges, also regime fails no matter what, no, actually, Texans is your own escalation, up in 6, other just getting dangerous on close, well, and also regarded, so less like some down as it tells you, makes the form of those Jordan, and free of change. There's no because they were coupled in the acting military institution, series military party, coupled arraignments into your guard of the track of 50 August, result is a new Paris and Ohio civilization to reach generation of flows and his full of that for humanity reach more than across the pyramids and Americans the sadly risking more. There won't be a conflict, his 11 and 7 to 10, or his heads will be rest and orders, church, and problems at 30 years ago. And the last word is will remain conscious of the weapons, usually a basic short machine guns, and his will not there, so not rely on popular support, and no bio, go to terror. No terror, back to 10. We will collection wake up and Sunday whether if will be with user one deputy capabilities of period of 5 years, APs that have their game, they do not go be one curse secret has to be deputy, why they can do both people when not model like some damage they should make that is already terror service has advantage when they defend the terrors are coming straight the next for deputy capabilities. And no by word 49, government is ready by some level presentation to not under block and remotely evil form.
Okay, topicality, did your interpretation pass? Did the CBCRA evidence pass?
Completely irrelevant. Indicates how.
Yes or no question, Daniel?
The bill that we were citing, no.
Okay, so why is it statute, or why should we follow it?
One, most T definitions, in fact, like 99% of them, are not in fact statutes of federal law. Two, indicates how legislators intend to define presence.
But it got denied,
The bill was
correct?
not rejected because of its definition of presence. The bill was rejected because they didn't want to fund more military.
Do you have evidence that says that?
I would be astounded.
Counterplan. What's the status of the two counterplans in the K?
Conduct.
Okay. Do you have a solvency advocate for the court's counterplan about the plan?
It does not specifically.
Okay. Do you have a net benefit to the court's counterplan?
Yeah, politics.
Okay. Why? What evidence do you read about that?
I have not, but it does
Okay. So not in the one C. Advantage counterplan. Does the counterplan solve peaceful regime change?
Yes.
Where does your evidence make a distinction between violent and peaceful?
Let's see.
Which is what all of our 1AC
first
evidence
card
says.
indicates. Let's see. Where is it?
Just show me the word peaceful regime change.
The legislation should state the United States seeks a peaceful change of Iran's form of government.
Okay. Where does it say that will be effective?
That the previous whole part of the card is about how all this stuff works. The second card is more about.
Does the counterplan end covert operations into Iran? Does the okay? So why would they peacefully regime change if we continue to use violent tactics in Iran?
Because we overall shift from people in Iran to revolt.
What's the net benefit to this counterplan? How? You have a plank that says Congress will insert more oversight authority over special ops. It seems like very similar to that. How does it not link?
The plan is withdraw special hubs from Iraq. We leave them there, put a bit more oversight over them. Our link, you get rid of them, period.
So your link is solely based off withdrawal, correct? Okay. The Buddhism, K. The negative, you engage in the anxiety of the one and of that your impacts talk about as well. Will your argument just be conditionality, or is there a different argument?
What's the question?
That the 1 and C engages in the same type of anxiety as the affirmative. Why is it fine to do that on the negative?
We're negative.
Okay, so it's just conditionality. How does the alternative shed the ego?
Well, it starts by meditative thought.
Okay, who does? Wait, stop. Who starts with meditative thought?
Well, voting negative is a normative endorsement of that. Who does it is kind of like...
Okay, so what happens? We just meditate in like a corner
Well,
and don't do anything?
There are very specific assumptions, and our evidence says this entails a political methodology, because if you recognize that you are no different from the world around you, there's no distinction between the self and the other, then that fundamentally changes the way you go about it.
Will the alternative ever do the act or claim to solve
We
the
won't
affirmative?
claim to cause the act.
Okay, debt ceiling. Why would Congress backlash against themselves? The agent of the plan is Congress.
Obama would, probably end up pushing something.
Wait, stop there. Why would the president push something that Congress does by themselves?
Because the plan has congressional action. It doesn't mean that Obama won't decide to get involved.
Which evidence do you have that says Obama gets involved with congressional action? Stop. Wait, answer that next question. Why will presidents get involved with solely congressional action? Okay, cool. So you don't have it.
There's this thing called veto power.
Cool. We'll take some break.
The order is the Black Ops advantage. Number 1. It's going to be easier. It's going to be advantages 1, 2, and then 3. So Black Ops, White Ops, and then oversight. And then it's going to be solvency.
We were worried about
We were
that.
worried about that.
That was one of the things we prepped for. Well, the first time we read it, we didn't want to...
Guys,
we do have a block to that.
Then T substantial, the extra T argument, the advantage counterplan, the court's counterplan, the K, and politics.
This isn't really awkward, but we'll take some crap. I want to talk about some these days.
Still all of them.
Yeah.
Let's be on the same page.
The order is still the same. We haven't changed that. Okay. Good? Yeah. Are all the judges ready? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. We're kicking the second part of the Iran advantage. We'll concede that regime change is impossible to choose their zones early. However, they've conceded the part of the advantage. It says that U.S. operations into Iran provokes a U.S.-Iran conflict. They conceded impact our first evidence indicates that Iran will respond to this by attacking the United States, causing a nuclear war, which draws in other major powers. This subsumes all their Middle Eastern war. Demons consenting not a go between the U.S. and the Middle East. They conceded argument between me. We don't need to do that much now. Son of the terror advantage. Spread one carbage is absolutely terrible. They've conceded our battle arsenal between this launch the index. All their evidence says that they have a bias towards not the attack weapon name, the capability and motivation. Kasani in 419 17 the lower chart the submarine 49 justification of the lake from the future is approximately the major the possible example to make delivery and come off prefer experts labor not just after the board our church not coming to more the US and factor the not for but they also conceded that we solved the entirety of terrorism by redeploying white operations forces throughout the rest of the war, which is probably the best internally which they've conceded now. The oversight advantage there is a precedent. Our evidence is fantastic on this question. We shift the operation for these forces from a Title 10 question to a Title 50 question, which sets a precedent for all other arguments. Their evidence is absolutely terrible. It doesn't apply to the plan, and even if we don't say any precedent, we make it legally impossible for the president to continue intervening the India stuff. We're not going for we can see relations. There's really no impact to any of that jazz. They say no internal link to war. That sucks for you. We actually have cards in this question. They have an analytic. We have evidence that says that the future U.S. deployment of these forces will cause war with Russia, going with Russia and China. These are all conceded impacts, probably causing future means. If the chart actions they say no impact, evidence is terrible. Giants, Flavor Republicans, the high cut it in. It sets a couple more seats. One is trade, the Germany locked in the other. All other countries seem to be initial locking lever trade means they would never go to war. The beast one is discharge means. Then the Germany deterrence come from masculine themselves. Any other escalation of proxy means to the impact they say no cyber war. This is not our scenario. Our scenario is that these cyber attacks happen every single day. It's just a question whether we respond to it means their defense is not responsible. Our evidence said that the absence of congressional oversight means that we respond to now the solvency debate. They say Afghanistan. This is not first argument is we solve those arguments because the present argument said instead of also is probably not the argument indicates that the only numbers either ones in control. Now they say Israel. It doesn't matter. It's only a question of whether they go to war with the United States, which means that it doesn't matter. The Assad is also probably a lot better than our special operations forces. They kind of something that Assad is really badass. Our atomicality, the substantial reduction is 25%. U.S. code sentence reduction with percentage made 25%. We reduce 100%. The only rest that is being already reduced. Courts made in 10 years. Substantial must be interpreted in specific context. Ferreira, it's actually said that withdrawals a process of fact is the best context for Rock Corbett all in 7 8 every point to the after Rock is here must funding if they don't solve particularly the limit we can reduce only the eccentrics are standard we provide a clear bright line if producing textual evidence topic graphics or central breast your top will be force action defend gets picks up police controversial words the top makes the research for inevitable wars yeah they can limit generics and ours is the only inherited rock at Scarborough it's technical substance not for the essential means important to Oxford in 5 states SOF are the only troops that do anything heating in SOF operations are most crucial killing bin Laden proves that Shaw in 5 US operations focusing the Iraq made on special is key to recover military the public eye key in technical variety the default reasonability we don't have to defend the most lenient and perception interpretation only one that is fair community interpretation use long formula most limited interpretation structure they're not that bad the extra key argument oversight does break down troops that are solving the target first officer our key members in the first piece of evidence our oversight advantage proves this is also the function of what the plan does which is conceded means that we would probably break that down also solvency after possession we have evidence that says this would be a reduction in presence that's probably good enough so other limits and a possibility of things also we won't spike out of any links because that we're some reduction in military presence we will still defend that also our oversight advantage proves that this is a prevalent debate that we have to have in this function it's really important also probably some more specific counterpoints talk about this is probably more important extra also gives them more ground again to counter talk about those of course now the advantage counter Regime change doesn't matter, which is the only eternally case unless the Gardner Evans agency, the BKB, other SOF has ways to run probably trees and also proud growth and also increasing the amount of SOF elsewhere cannot solve the east. What is training only reading point ventures, high quality reviews, that's kid and beast. What is occasion occurring? SOF that the key is here to foreign office, capability, global terrorism, with the seas of what is burnout, SP, in a lot of stuff, marching overseas and now cannot condition somebody issue function with South Coast States who starts to bring in search of go for Southern North of the US should make later appear to start social algorithm should choose best to be on the more better receive one conditional countermeasure one case also off and was great and now the courts counterplan the counterplan has a flaw in the text. The courts cannot oversight their oversight authority. It is Congress's oversight authority. They saw nothing in purview shields the link Baron the sons of 5D even if the counterplan is ultimately they fail to institutionalize spiritual oversight explains the plans for your state running what doesn't change the culture of deference, Polito, and waiver and 7 win. The law now, the criticism naturally to where the case against KO definitely a third interpretation verdict over the debate 2 is case outweighs so they can see the archer literature true life is good and extinction is bad. Delvin in 94 words the anniversary of the first but you have to do the more the basic fun of the other consideration that does and perjury the plan on non-issues who spoke to the alternative deal can overcome the plan that deal can't overcome the plan that it can't solve. Also their argument links to this whoa more than the plan they probably can't share all this thing probably would be exception of prior questions to her last it's owing into this opportunity to murders have to be right over center where they murders to transfer percent or to the percent of content the opportunity to send Christian or to be for the opportunity with you you know what it gets to respect that positivism is good and true there it was on absolutely unverified nonsense so cool and access the info shots or that is for the Robert's purposes shots with the your text for the they've also no scenario for a CGP levels. Probably now we can have other solutions to solve that back and make them isolated. What also value life is a personal choice they can't force. They see events on other on people now. The politics is like unique, is so overwhelmingly self-interest, outweighs sugar, in 411 Congress, what else? The deal will get done and also rational policy investment plan the budget. Therefore, the design is no logical reason to that the plan of the poll cap is high, the economy rebounded. That's how we do it because most of the modern Lewis and 5 to a lot. Oh, it's not going to cost something. It's much more than what I for the office of the the bipartisan support for the plan. There was no reason that Congress would backlash against themselves. NYC in 5 state American oversight by the not okay for here sees what is Congress already voted for oversight AF as the intent Congress would actually Congress to just what is efforts to expand oversight in military sales have been increasing in both houses. Kaiser intent English structural oversight or authority without the retail parts of the market of the households and the technical part of the relations with the technical with the issue of the that president can distance himself Jordan and all and 90 president the ones of the Obama will spend capital on debt on the debt ceiling goal or 413 Obama has been said to with himself and then their IT will spend on immigration instead of 419 Obama has no reason possible president the money with capital president no to link stuff with the announcement with the means the plan has the instantaneously just like hospital travel economic decline is not cause war Ferguson it's a pretty much made part of the war to the representation of the government which are the office of one video the kind of the economic disaster. Yeah, you may have to read some of those cards. Yeah. For these principles. When Congress exercises oversight authority by forcing these troops to withdraw, by making them illegal, it means that it forces a precedent shift from the use of covert military.
You say? Is the plan to declare these troops illegal?
That is one of the functions of the plan.
How is declaring troops illegal?
That is one of the functions of the plan. The function of the plan, by forcing them to withdraw, by exercising their oversight authority, means that they are...
Moving on, politics answers. Here, Jordan L. 9 cards about presidency distance himself. It's about the president distancing himself from, like, when we assassinate someone, it doesn't hurt his capital because he can pretend he wasn't involved. How's that about the plan, which is like, moving people out of Iraq?
It's a question of whether he can insulate himself from special operations president. Look, there's also a logical argument who said, like, Congress does the plan.
Okay, yes. Next argument. Your Obama wants to capital debt is about, like, his budget plan versus Biden's budget plan. It's not about the debt ceiling. Does it apply?
It's talking about his debt reduction plan. I mean, I think the card's fine. He's not going to get involved in the debt
different fight, not the debt ceiling. Okay.
I think it's good enough to be about both. Obviously, we can read another card in one area.
So, besides moving these troops out of Iraq, what is, like, exercising oversight authority?
Congress exercises oversight authority to declare that these kind of special operations presence, these SOF forces, can no longer be used to rampantly be deployed into wars that are not authorized by Congress. Our Wilner evidence indicates that this accounts for a blank check for military activism, and asserting oversight authority means that the president has to run these kind of troop deployments by Congress. The difference is whether they are in a war theater or not. Our argument is that these troops can be deployed within Iraq because that is technically where we are at a war, but they cannot be sent into Iran because that exceeds the scope of their jurisdiction. Argument is that it creates, our Wilner evidence indicates that it does. It creates the shift in the kind of legality of these presence deployments. It makes it illegal for the president to deploy them under Title 50.
Right. Okay, your card about, like, China-Russia war. The most it says about China and Russia is we could confront China and Russia. That sentence. How does that equal total nuclear conflict?
It says we would be headed for a confrontation with rising powers like China and Russia. They will inevitably be rising, and we will do crazy SOF stuff. Yeah, you're right. An inevitable confrontation. Our Hunkebeck and our health and evidence indicates that this would most likely be nuclear.
Okay, so the order will be the K and then politics with an overview. That's a lot of syllables on that one.
I think the best part is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone good?
We're kicking the country again. The argument says reason to reject the alternative, the permutations as success accommodation. Now politics, growth outweighs extent housing and self-gain controls magnitude, economic integration brings more or less like recruiting independence and cooperation and trade, but collapse dissolves the one to protectionism and resource grabbing. Since the biggest countries are risky guarantees nuclear escalation means quicker time frames since the other broken since it immediately three sub markets and shields investment which means a breakdown of border improvements, have solvency, transcase bureaucracy, and cooperation, resource allocation for transnational threats and effectiveness in national policy trends, durable solvency by forcing a reversion to militaries until predated the company clubs and every care might be of the company's caps or thousands of cost cards and markets and company clubs, also increase global company back and assist and so distribution for resource nations through comparable use force industrial nations see the extras out with the country and resource needs of the economic clubs and military force become and when it's the war good to develop very quickly and to mitigate its own aggression its answers their Ferguson car which is only about World War II royal temperatures effective economy increase like affection of the outside economy at the price getting to redistribution of power that leads to uncertainty increasing miscalculation of future expectation of significant variable is going to be a hammer independence of trade likely gain a second benefits from trading so long as they have an opportunity view of future data recession tends to amplify the extent to which international conflicts and to self-reinforcement receiving that popularity from economic landscape and governments having increased incentives to fabricate conflicts to great fair value around the public economic destroying weak economic performance or statistically to increase in the use of force use political science scholarship links happening decline with the extreme unfavorable conflicts extremely high undoubted at national levels that also turns all of the cases especially terrorism fatal for property self-conflict change but the fuel bound protection of these networks are and thereby status both the countries while these countries the networks that are approached this country a broken separate organization it solves the two food when growth is shop forward of all may reduce certainty to second closure again should be steps to reduce stereotypes if producing power should be important effects structural and system wide and also transform their leadership and relations to them with a bunch of other countries because it means there will be immediate protections backlives that increase trust and makes leadership impossible counts on and fair use unlike protect balance and counter class basic basic leadership would diminish in the US would have withdrawn from the world and make national relations that would have to fill the vacuum with the US those receive the change in in a depth institution to develop position when necessary, whereas also choice, you have left self, is enforcing redeployment now, group the uniqueness of one self, their self-interest warrants is not engaged, or one in C claims, which says, yes, there's self-interest, but there's also posturing the status quo because politicians use strategy of brinksmanship means they perceive it as also in their self-interest to increase the political rep, and if that rep interferes with a deal, then it might not pass. Debt ceiling will be increased, but a compromise deal is likely, but that is now guaranteed. Newton's small 426 fact, almost every Republican government voting against the debt ceiling fact, almost every Republican thinks that is going to somehow, without much GP, but the ceiling will pass through governments like for who always vote against agrees the promise that without the influx of the freshman, the remain not been large enough to impede past that, and Williams have been pushing Democrats to impede such all the two cuts, and that idea looks likely. Plus, it's such a question of link uniqueness is never settled for sure, because it's a probabilistic question that changes up in database and can't be verified, but you can for sure know the plan decrease the chances, plus that after changes political climate, which their uniqueness overwhelms starts to assume even if it's currently impossible not to pass, no, those conditions could change the result of the plan. It's not guaranteed. Article 417 gathering expect competence parties for and a given little military test by minimum to the roof has become royal free parties and battles leaders parted by the Tea Party, and uniqueness doesn't overwhelm Tea Party pressures mean Republicans are willing to oppose the debt limit increase. Columns 410 the U.S. is one of the conditions that increase it by law. Leaders have grown accustomed to political brinksmanship of raising the capital in the end. Congress would ultimately do what makes this year difficult to the large numbers of congressional Republicans who are generally supposed to government spending is done by Tea Party and the leverage of the link to make their stand. They see intrinsicness reject the change to create a cost of the circle. They'll make uplifts and the right if we drop no voting that ensures peace. The 10 times topical the Senate groups bill is an opportunity to pass the plan because they make it politically impossible, so they have to forget a passage of an extra topical item which crosses the table. Often also net ground everything, but impact trends can be figured out through these host generic charts. We need to average out even if they're not totally specific and reciprocally as we get to test their internally speaking account plans as a response to the fiat plan blending the choose plan and wealth as it says it's more biased than they say political capital tie now it's in our response to all the uniqueness of one stuff are right above and begs the question because even if political capital tie out now we'll just argue that he is enough to get past really says go Obama Osama wow just said Obama and Osama death and boost Obama's full capital that doesn't guarantee the agenda so far factories news will do significant improvement wants to true for rating this again to help Obama once again I'll make Obama look more informed with the issue but I'm sure the magnitude of their polls can be special for how there is a business never produced plus the argument makes no sense it's only a boost because of a hardline security policy so far factory Republicans have not seen special interest making and it's because Obama's foreign policy has been really hard to naturally differentiate but presumably will be significant target word for the president plus killing Bin Laden gave Obama a firewall against calls to withdraw troops as factory rather than having to respond to pressure why Donald Trump and the dramatic Bin Laden submission gives Obama a firewall that prevents him from Obama moving out having the U.S. involved there and made look like clones that abuse troops GOP will politicize the plan to attack Obama via opportunism of right factory Obama and not to take a job to Obama's security policies would each other exercise other ones on what voting was focused on hosting the succession after general principle leadership and view abstract into the political drains. Now the next argument is that there's no link because there's no bill in the plan. They win backlash against themselves. This raises the question of whether the plan is unpopular or not. If we win the plan is unpopular, then it doesn't matter whether Congress enacts it or not because there will be debates in the process of getting enacted. Some people have interest in those interest conflicts are copyright evidence is fantastic on this. Is anything about becoming more soft line or red is taking away the server operations causes a huge reaction. There are influences from the Israel lobby, there are influences from Congress Republicans, and there are influences from people who are straight up afraid of Iran. Nobody is going to be soft line on Iran because it's politically indefensible. Also, the president has veto power over it, which means he's involved at some extent, and the plan has to happen. If people didn't like it, they would backlash more because suddenly so they got fiated through and they didn't want to decide that way. Obama gets blamed for military decisions no matter what. Gadgets happen by virtue of his document in chief. The president not accountable for the U.S. force. The mere fact that there are 500 third family members of Congress office individual nominee for me. Now, if you could even name one member of Congress, go to the burn check that possible to plan the president. And Obama will get involved in duty actions are, and Obama will get involved because he'll choose to lose 5 points. Care about policy outcomes. They care because their choice influence how voters receive president. Not know what outcomes they want to. The amount of defense spending prices. One of the administrative to reduce occupancy and right to the policy outcomes. Incentives of equal to the president's subordinates. Also, we only have to win controversies that would create sufficient price to derail the voter release delay, which would make the economy more likely to collapse. Their shielding argument is what I just answered above there, but just as he has a political shield effect when he's assassinated people because of covert operations. That doesn't mean the massive withdrawal of everything we have left in Iraq, which they say is substantial when a massive controversy. Plus, you should ignore their older evidence, new bipartisan consensus over Iran containment is strong. A soft line trigger creates partisan acrimony. Kate and Ted notice made this type of Washington path go around and to all the partisan things about following the simple blessing to the fact that our operations still sound safe. Reckon Obama will lead to bipartisan agreements around Marco on the range of things are rapidly learned that the engagement is only with the British majority problems along with most Democrats support the administration. So the strength of partisan devices will only strengthen if the administration backs down. Plus, this is true even if the plan is popular. There's any one change would be difficult. Any military start then not suffer defeat. The U.S. military does not face this nation, but happens to mass in the food chain military practicing in policy less than the percent sense go programs well. Resistance to capital needed for policy bureaucracy, judicial thing, and other means of resources will eliminate the policy. They say that Obama won spent ban capital on it. He's pushing it now. That was a Brexit and all the unique steps from the one to say that is the top priority. And he is making an offensive K-51 and personal Trump defense Obama's hosting the partisan collection of the defense means eventually there's a White House for discussion about how to reach a deal on the debt limit. Plus, he's spending full cap now. He's committed to seeing through an increased starting for 11 the president's commitment to establish the income again back when he had sharply believe the move would coexist with the president demonstrates commitment again. He looks forward to winning a deal with Congress, and Obama's not pushing immigrant reform means this comes first word is 420 in the prison for immigration reform surcharge, taking the backseat to more getting marks. The Democrats lost control of the House makes a change of advancing immigration before the midterm was they say if he solves no, it doesn't. Even if the plan happens immediately, that doesn't actually claim if people dislike the plan, they would be more upset they didn't get to debate. The second is this shows us in ground all court generic space and so fast implementation, politics, spending, and trade overall. All negative grounds, all the reasons I made about why politics they says are important is the reason why this is legitimate. They say Ferguson card answer that about we have robust statistical support. The first reason for this is diversionary war theory. Economic climate these countries more likely help around the ground flag. Fact, their evidence doesn't indict this because it just says that yes, when Germany went to World War after the economy covered the debt machines, the fact that they were nationalists as a result of the second is declining expectations. People expect trade to deliver goods from them. That trade declines because having declined that they no longer see a benefit to their dependence. The third is something I forgot, but the card says it, and it's pretty good. I'm going to go to conduct because I have a little bit of time. Multiple conditional worlds are good for dropping to a sea pressure is good for sufficiency, skill, bonus, filter, offense, skill, remain, offensive right flow, turn decisive block repetition, potential, new upstand, that corresponds with condo enables for transformation, with lifetime to research against the responsive logic. It's an inherent code, incoherent model, requires something different, worse than steps, go transfer, dealing back to all the arguments, legitimate policy, get attack from both sides, and make plus regard his reactions to there are more specific because we can avoid basic feelings, links with the found that best research on their own chips. There's also side by square from speak less than the lib base, better in research, reinforce more or wider range of missions, have the same dependable social and skills, also education and something to do badly now. Our defense, there's no time to use some key chops, second piece, change speeches and procedures, cause the point of being negative to view the tragic place safely. Actually, double turns does help on the depth is inevitable because the two and our checks and two he can exert influence over shifting our interpretations we get, or the one and zero redstone close to find unlimited. There's is equal to opportunity to tell the values and part of our impacts is not a voter anyway, just protect the practice. We don't have to win that offense because practice can be tolerable, if not especially good. Now back to politics. I'm pretty sure they didn't make a PC not key argument. I'm going to ask some cross because I'm pretty sure. But anyways, to preempt that in case they bring it up, political capital is key. I claim that all on the uniqueness over wrong stuff in our 1 and C. Uniqueness card and the Watch Times card say all partisan acrimony means Obama needs to exert influence to keep those debates contained. Now, the pre-crossing prep, did you read the PC not here? No. Just check. 2 seconds. I didn't want to know.
You'd be so many weird things. Okay. Let's talk about uniqueness over Muslim. You've read a lot of cards that says that the Tea Party are a little bit cuckoo. All of your cards say that some sort of deal is likely. Does it matter what kind of deal they have?
Absolutely. Our argument is we have to reach the debt. We have to increase the debt ceiling soon, like before the deadline.
It's really just an increase in the debt ceiling.
No. If it happens at some point, that doesn't matter because if it doesn't happen on time and people can't plan on the
my question is just that you need to win that the debt ceiling will be raised on time.
I mean, yeah, the debt ceiling is not raised on time. That implicates uniqueness. You didn't engage that.
Let's talk about uniqueness over Muslim. Which piece of evidence, and I want you to read me the best line that you have, says that this can be derailed?
Sure, let me think. The no group may now be large enough to impede passage. That was the first card. The second one, I want to go through all of them because they're all pretty good.
Wait, if the no group is now large enough to impede passage, why is it passage?
No, they have the potential to. That doesn't mean they're
You just said that the no group is large enough to impede passage.
Yeah, they're large enough to impede passage. That doesn't mean they're immediately voting no now. Like when he says no group, he doesn't mean there's.
So I guess what does Obama?
There's another card I can quote.
Ellis, what does Obama's political capital do to change the mind?
I mean, it has the effect of persuasion, calming that partisan acrimony, exerting his leadership.
What does Obama do to calm the partisan acrimony?
I mean, if he can marshal his, diplomatic is a poor word choice. If he can marshal his, presidential resources to set the agenda, control what types of debate happen, convince people's resources. Do you understand how?
I do understand. I want you to explain.
His time, his persuasive power.
So he talks to the GOP a whole lot about raising the debt. Why does that change their mind?
Their mind doesn't need to be changed now. He needs to prevent them from freaking out over stuff like the plan. The plan keeps that from happening by virtue of the plan happening.
Wait, he needs to prevent them from freaking out. You have read a lot of arguments about why the GOP don't like doing things like increasing debt.
No. In fact, the first uniqueness over Lumps card I read was really good because it says, fact, almost every Republican is against voting to raise the debt ceiling. Fact, almost everyone thinks the ceiling will be raised.
They think it will be raised.
Yeah, they're going to vote for it now. Their arms are being twisted now. That's why Cole Pepper.
Why does it say their arms will be twisted? They just think that a debt is going to be done because they don't think that the economy will collapse.
That's not true, and none of the cards reflect that.
I guess
we made a pretty explicit claim based on brinksmanship in the 1 and C that it is possible for them to vote on something that is not in their actuarial.
Wait, if it's just a question of brinksmanship, doesn't that mean that at the end they will never lead back down?
No.
Why not?
Because the point of brinksmanship is that you can't assure the outcome because people's reputation and concerns lead them to do things where they privilege reputation. They're still getting paychecks.
So it's a question of the reputation to me. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Orders going to be like Iran. The oversight court, the oversight advantage, grand advantage, here is the white off. Ready? Canada don't really care about any of the place they answer. They drop a flank that has Congress acres oversight of the special forces rapid action withdrawn. This means they don't probably don't back up against using the remedy. That's great oversight that spills over and solves other model cases to stop use of special forces and other instances completely solves the oversight base. Now the Congress kind of counter on the increase and solve legally solve the terror after it's safe, actually better for check the executive by having the courts check executive power here is much more solved scripts about the read so clearly solves the terrorism and Iran advantage because the troops are no longer interacting can no longer be attacking Iran can be reallocated terrorism. It's just a question of whether solve oversight for judicial oversight increases executive accountability reduces psychological error walls and four people taking out the oversight service we have the human stroke executive official terror revenue service pressure officials educated focus started the struggle about against the government institutional revenue the things what executive officials learn from the past search of the sexual issues that accountability board constitution been awarded self no one is also was a big party through group their conferences can mitigate some reputation which is the result of the right difference months of getting informed fight against the accountability with your decision based on secret sometimes crisis executive official went over rest made decision of the environment they come from decision for what legally improved decision over fact finding capabilities requirements like government just by increasing civil literacy for the general definition of accountability board and so double the only ones decision even the common sense of weaker still sets a precedent to restrain the executive walls and four court looking to Asia opinions over executive issues the possibility of resolution of for real and unpredictable judicial rulings create even a better oversight walls and four judicial complete the items of preference and unneeds for self-critical complex loss or judgment makers are on the way of the parties breath of ethical or self-critical integrated complex ways the accountability only for decision making only the executive audience views around non-executive officials know they can speak or just argue by bolsters especially just proceed for practice justice and remedies the topics not necessarily government decisions you got to take the case to judge for be set up with the priorities that all use be views being known. The group thinks the reason that CA action interacts something before. Evidently, the president of the funding school readers are investors to get our national characteristic that breaks like the letter instruction council illustrates that it's like meeting the intelligence facilities. The CA or the age committees which finance that are rectal buildings for the alternative possibilities and executive circumvention is not possible. More than 5 signals for the fact that the executive is review and roll all internal with the equality of because it's definitely states before the practical review gives the urgent calls to force it with the board of support visually enhanced better business those within the ancient was not that explosive reason the supervision board of decisions they don't understand review because external forces internal checks imbalances outside financial check the hands of establish which are better and for the practice of internal review and monitoring empirically discharge the effect of checking and 4 strict also restitution for the income federal funds to be ordered in the answer really has been held that presidents the constitutional authority receiving orders is the such way to flow with the president that the constitutional balance of the range is also repeated allow racial compared to part of the expensive rate until the pressure of the legislative judicial banks as well.
Real quickly, can you answer the paramount
other kind of foundation looks at politics, of course. And now the line end of the course kind of indicated we have a textual fund. No, we don't have the word aids in the kind of increases oversight over the entire course of nations ruling negative permission above birds that keep shield the plane against congressional involvement simultaneously the court action shielding to specific sequencing can only make sense of the court rules and then the court Congress versus after the only legitimate interpretation first they both have to the same thing and we saw the bargaining negotiating single plan occurs prior to the court decision legislation always works capital setting number 94 president face officers proud committee members the president ability to show his meeting nature about their side but it's all different over serious likelihood those get ready to use executive conference to president of the government president was going to go legislative changes court decisions in June slotting single 98 who was not very important supported once of statute the court was about by the last one third attorney accountable alone makes a legal controversy implemented by the third mood Baker 94 matter of controversy over result of judgment federal nothing to common judgment on the guide and resolution cannot reflect the judgment better mood Supreme Court is under the grace made to the amendments of federal sector enacted the case ready and judicial decisions ready moody should not undermine separation of powers Watson 91 failed to embrace the practice readies but the foundation consider other requirements just with example be the government minister remedy and the natural harmony of the existence for the legislative for the future power the judges against the church to the bound of the minds of choice of citizens that turns case reaches Caesar 91 so I curse likely the current copies of powers every powers of the government of the practice of the government security that the base for the church administration by over the possible very good the demonstration of the culture those Sarah Church and separate powers but essential kind of what is security concepts of the time was a budget progression and checking pleasant what was the damn culture the rest of the judicial practice and debates and for any government structure on the one basis of practice of what one of harmful results on the one case the legal world wants to be subject to decision saying so justice solve as well the court needs to repudiate judicial authorization send a stronger single back button 7 federal post court ruled and accept the judicial line of the fight the Congress Supreme Court and should divide the Congress Bob and the commercials of the worst was the understanding of this practice on national labor no avoid the indicated no congressional oversight goes all mutually over the indicated doesn't solve the difference in military action the military action just with a billion parts does it oversight on the executive means they cannot do things like cyber war or election challenge the oversight advantage the only conceivable advantage that's not that the accountability is not solved first they've conceded that Congress will never check the executive even if they have the authority the ability to check the executive the fact that they are members of the same party means the political factors means they'll never stop Obama from doing whatever he wants not prove all the and strict oversight now how heaven in 7 Congress Johnson interpretation natural judge ancient judge of the future limits and kind of restricting and cover every spectrum of strategy and the district of series of figures Thomas to Jenny Summers and no trying to work on Kai's paradigm flow score of 9 every defense for decision go no competition and comes when independent concerns one magical decision
time and look at the civil relationship, but no Russian war, Graham 7. Russell was second, and then the war was a Russian champion, fell in Idaho, but Henry second, multiple as a defense of destruction, conversion of the Dars, some of the unreliable result of the nation, exactly was approach to zero, credible Alexander was credible, and James, not PR, but statistical studies indicated Japanese never, many more steelmakers were evidence 3 to 10, given him example, Dr. Rogers told the Gimaras with the World American country, disability, nature, and instability now, instability group, the second war, evidence, the second war was not going to happen.
It's going to be the oversight advantage. Sorry?
That's number 3.
Sorry, that is number 3. Then the terrorism advantage.
That's number 2.
That's number 2. The advantage counterplan, the courts counterplan, and then the fault.
Oversight, white ops, advantage counterplan, court policy.
Everyone ready? Okay.
Congress will be able to check ruler evidence is great on this question. Also, the plan with fiat through this first diagnosis. There's no oversight now on the plan, which is the only relevant question on covert operation. All that. That's all that matters. Means there are generic oversight, high card disband. Also, you should strike all the new impact events. So there's no ink on this. The one and see make the being affirmative when possible. It's also the one very unique reason to protect it. But I'll answer it here. Yes, China war 100 favors better since others. Like Korea, Japan, Russia, and everyone else may draw the means as the instruments of Russian war. How the best races we have the most number of nuclear arsenals. It doesn't to the magnitude or the instruments of Japanese clusters, jackhammers, spinners, 3 wars where I also first empirical 60 years of hegemony to really prove our argument. Second, it's trade. It binds countries together. It turns countries probably solves their economy. In fact, also democracy promotion. It turns out countries who have been to war. Also, cyber terrorism conceded impact 100% risk. What 2 are words they should not matter for you because they don't make an argument. The plan is to reassert control that the like argument or retaliation is very likely. If you see the culmination at 100% risk WMD escalation now, the terrorist advantage also conceded 100% risk. I don't see much work here now. The advantage going in don't solve the oversight advantage. With the court acting in withdrawal as teams said, they don't actually also don't solve terrorism or I don't really understand. The counterplan also probably links to politics or the permutation to solve. There's no distinction here now. The court's counterplan could see the gapful evidence for politics at the top to Obama. Paul gets the blame over military decisions no matter what. The president is responsible for everything in the war. They receive this counterplan. Links to the plan. No new 2 in our entries were conceded. One in our one of their own arguments in the book makes me affirmative possible the impact. They also probably permutation to do the plan and the counterplan probably solved and shields links as the grant evidence. Courts are strong enough to overcome the link to politics. They probably cover Congress posters. No capital language will be on public, so there's no benefit makes this problem. Their June card is not conclusive. The counterplan, which means that most they probably would happen at the same time. The plan also probably solves SOP better as the Wilner evidence. And SOP class is probably inevitable. Without the plan, the counterplan does not solve oversight. Asymmetry. The plan is a prerequisite need. We need commercial actions to do things like cyber warfare policy. Our evidence is hyper specific. That's the Dykes card. And piece of point is it doesn't change deference precedent, which means that it doesn't solve the long term. It's the plan. Here's the impact of deference. Supreme Court effectiveness in military affairs and deference and Paris effectiveness is over 90 military. Two states supposed to be recognized serious here. Hopes in military conflict willing to reach a specific military authority with Jewish world. These two in charge of military. My state promise and deference to see the readiness to Hudson. 99 of proper calling used to coordinate reputation of every conflict and removal of most military fighting state of our Japanese tax that's the Japanese center to a readiness from military readiness to the world that he was not prepared to high sea military readiness like the term, but international eventually also refer all of our evidence. None of their songs evidence in the context of the affirmed. All of ours is specific to a withdrawal of evidence. This is a unique reason to refer to evidence. Now that the politics said doesn't turn the case special off or the strongest internal links to all of our effects. You don't turn solvency or country one durable fiat would probably be able to solve economic collapse in the World War II. It's clearly a flawed example because Germany recovered before they started the war. This is what all their evidence sites for Ferguson. These professor recovered these more qualified than their random national terrorism happens by 2013, which is the conceded argument from the leader for which means economic growth doesn't solve it fast enough. It probably doesn't also spill over to Iraq. So that doesn't make sense. Also doesn't turn our relationship or leadership events to covert ops or the biggest determinant. Even if they can solve some growth in the long term, there's still covert ops that will cause a conflict. That's a Wilner and economic economies also restoring this reparation. Since economies able to strong restoring them missing these global economies to restore the causing effects we have great sense of inflation global inflation great much growth that the price mentioned from terms of market activities as of the regulation retention it means that the economy notion will not be able to work with hostile terrorist attack Islam also their air app, all their options exaggerated about the debt ceiling, AP, in 11 Democrats use students and all those. There are way too many ways to do it. They're way too many people going from money, notice, self-investment, when my tax bill, we also control appearance, Tanner, in 11 Obama is warning Armageddon, 1985, Congress waited 3 months, in 1994, and a half months, in 2002, 3 months, in none of these cases in the world, and also not really intrinsic in this way, will defend the ideological intrinsic. We can only suspend dissent or within the agential evidence of Congress for our interpretation cultivate a logical decision-making model which these better policy will conceive conditionality explicitly that's the biggest impact around that way there. If we think of non-intrinsic concept disables argument innovation which is key to get deep into the literature and for higher information rusting intrinsic. This is just true in this context as well. Zero reason Congress would back us against themselves. No reason Obama would have spent political time because he doesn't get involved in subsumes all other parts of the analysis. It's not. He even says it's a question of the language. He said no, none of these debates cost their cost evidence terrible. Also, this also their it's not information. It's a logical part of the interpretation. You can see that the actor of Congress is a single actor. That isn't too. We can also just get politics changed by reading the newspaper every day. We don't need to contrive. We don't need to debate contrived dissents like this. Also, you need to overwhelm the GOP will inevitably have to compromise with Obama because they understand the implications of not raising the debt ceiling will collapse and coming in or dishwashing out the church. It's more evidence for wanting to order roles, which that's what there's not been the spreading defense of Democrat. This is for all the Republicans world work consistent response to that civil compromise left for chief members right debt ceiling. Happen now the numbers made no immigration fights kill the agenda. Their courts are all terrible. They don't say anything or say that Obama is willing to invest quote all of his political capital to push immigration and he's doing it now with means it takes up the length of Smith the plan boozles Obama's capital in the short-term ace points by partisan all key members of Congress opposing the federal government oversight against found by great covert operations. That's the New York Times evidence there. Before actions knowing one specific covert operations for BBC points before Congress has voted for oversight before that's AFC, so Obama won't get involved and BBC points the president distance themselves from the plan of Congress action. That's all the New York Times is probably needs to listen to any of their politics arguments.
Okay, the order is the advantage counterclaim. Politics with an overview. And then the court's counterclaim. All set?
Kicking the advantage power plan purposes to test the competition now politics, they cannot win the debate even if the sovereignty deficit is huge and the dissent risk is tiny because of a couple framing issues that the one hour did not read a word on. First is time frame. The best they can access is a 2013 terrorist attack on one of these stories since if the economy will immediately grind to a halt this month if a deal is not reached means the dissent turns case but not vice versa. And even if the risk is small, it is impossible to describe if you vote negative implicates everyone to see scenario. Second is it's key to all war. They can see the methodological defense of growth as a means of solving war creates interdependence between countries and creates unusual expectations of trade, which means they will not fight each other even if they are antagonized by specific forms of prisons. There are general studies that solve this, and even if that's not true, the decline from growth turns all of the case. I'll explain my turns case arguments here first is that it causes a reversion to militarism, which means all the arguments about cooperating with the Iran and non-antagonizing other countries make no sense in world economic decline because our Tilford evidence is the American Democratic era will be over. All checks on power that are stable will be gone. Our royal evidence is this will cause massive aggression. Other countries are fatal evidence is this directly turns terrorism because it will offer tons of recruits who would swamp the ability of our CIA people to solve what our shop evidence is. Only growth can solve terrorism permanently, and our college evidence says that there can be no hegemony period if the economic collapses case we will withdraw from all of our commitments and other nations will trust our security guarantees. They say it doesn't trade specific operations even if it doesn't do that. It trades why those operations are good, which I explain above. Specifically in the countries of terrorism, their Ferguson card is terrible. We cited better models. I explain enough of this and truancy did not have to do much work here because their evidence only does one example. They say the covert operations will lead to operation that begs the question they answered above. They say resilience versus this illegitimate newness. This was not engaged in the 2AC means it was factual hesitancy considered settled before we did not they did not mean to get to do this because we did not read new economy, not resilient cards, which means they didn't get to access it. Either way, it doesn't apply. Their evidence assumes macroeconomics are stable, which is changed by the world by the dissent happening because there would no longer be stable Fed rates and stuff like that. They assume a default internally, which is not our argument. Argument is that the markets would freak out where they do not have a card on because the markets wouldn't see us as a credible place to invest in T-bonds. They say intrinsicness. Their logic argument presumes that you are the USF. The US the conduct doesn't justify this because that's not a logical conception. Argument is that you are a person that sees what happens if the plane happens. If the plane happens, people will get upset, which means they do not have a logical answer to that. Either way, it's not true. People would still backlash, which means they have to pick out the extra topical action of that because the consequence of the plane is that the bill doesn't pass, which is ultimately because the Rex on the ground. They consider this as a reason to reject the team because ground outweighs fairness and prerequisite to any engagement with that education. We will still learn about things even if we have some contrived politics scenarios, but we cannot access ground when we don't have the best dissent on the topic. They say uniqueness overwhelms. Even if this is bad, they do not have any game on the link debate, which they concede changes the world by which you should interpret their evidence. Either way, it's not that good. Our 1 and C Madison evidence, our Newton small evidence, our Jakarta Globe evidence, our Comms evidence says there are enough Tea Partiers to mess with things if Obama doesn't have sufficient poll cap to invest in it because of stuff like brinksmanship, which explain and crossings in the GNC. They say immigration is on topic that they continue to prefer issue-specific uniqueness, and because there are papers and evidence which says there's no immigration legislation now, it's not going to be until 2012 arcane and Carney evidence that this is literally dominating the agenda now. The link debate versus Hassan Sober evidence say that there's a unique Bin Laden link that they drop because Obama has political cover over Bin Laden now, but if he suddenly starts pulling back from war and terror policies, the Republicans will freak out over it, even if they're the ones that passed it. Obama has veto power over the vacancy means he would be involved in these debates, and there would still be political acrimony, which is sufficient to trigger the controversy to prevent the bill from passing because Congress has to debate it, and some people will be unhappy that the plan happened, and now Cochran and Kagan have interest in link since people do not want to go Southland on record. There's only a risk of because there's any evidence, and there's Seinfeld evidence says legislation automatically decreases political capital. Their argument that takes out the reason why the counterplan links because Obama would avoid the fight, but he'd still be implicated because of the country and poll cap expenditure they did not choose. Now the court's counterplan there links to the politics argument I explained. Above also assumes Congress assumes Congress likes to settle the budget. The argument is that Obama will get involved in those things. We'll read more evidence that shows the link there, and it's more winning state five. Leaders enough to seek out controversial political overseas, of course, to avoid political power. They come to take direct action to such slavery and abortion, elected to debate over resolution to disrupt the social political legislative action to blame controversial system government provide electoral support. Also done apply to this specific counterplan because counterplan basically says screw you, Obama. He wouldn't be like thumbs up. I'm taking the political blame for that. Now the permutation stuff they consider that we act like our Islamic evidence says this is the most likely outcome of normal means for the counterplan, which means not only to the permutation, not just the link because the plan would happen before the debt ceiling, but the counterplan would happen however. It also means they can when the counterplan links to politics. Also, even if they happen at the same time, that is still an investment. And poll cap because there would still be investment to make sure that the bill gets passed, which triggers the link. Even if that issue gets resolved, the debate would still happen. All legislation links out to side vote. Gardner, Baker evidence says they rule on a mood issue, which is short off SOP. Even if they have something for SOP, it still links down solving the overcheck of our evidence is just better on this. I'll read one more card. Oh, yeah, that's for deference. First of all, their deference doesn't apply because we can create the signal that they do. They don't have any evidence. They don't have our Wells evidence, and our Wells evidence. Both of our Wells cards are Sunstein cards, and our Mark evidence and our Dean evidence says that this is a better check than Congress because Congress is subject to reputational concerns and political jurisdictions. But the court is a neutral observer that avoids groupthink, which is empirically the cause of the CIA being involved in Iraq. There's no link to their difference. Good argument. We solve it just as much as they do, and it's only an internal link back to their military courts. Our better decision makers have to often Wells avoid their place of function without the kind of they've also conceded that they don't solve because our evidence is that Congress will refuse to oversee the president when there is more power in the hands of them.
Court's counterplan politics.
I don't know about you, but I'm a little tired of Westminster winning the TOC, and they made a very important concession, which means that they cannot possibly win the argument that Arch and Flag at the top of the 1AR on the court's counterplan that Ellis has not really dealt with well, except by reading a new card. Their piece of actual evidence that they have read in the 2NC says, and I quote, by virtue of his role as commander-in-chief, the president is automatically accountable for the conduct of U.S. forces. If it is true that the politics decide links to the plan, that means that it necessarily links to the counterplan too, because it does not matter who withdraws the forces. As long as the forces are withdrawn, means that the president will inevitably take blame for the plan. And if we win this argument and it is true, and I'm pretty sure that it is because of this risk, then there is literally zero risk of a net benefit because it's not a question of degree. It is a question of yes, no, whether the president gets the blame. And in this case, it is a yes because this is an argument that the 2NC made in order to get competition for the counterplan, which means that they should not be able to go back on this question. If that is true, that the permutation do both solves that any risk, and that is a reason to vote affirmative because they do not have any competition for this. Now, even if we do not win this argument, the only advantage that I need to go for is oversight, which we only need to win a risk of solving. Even if the counterplan solves the plan, it fails to institutionalize congressional oversight. Multiple words, the ace of what is that the plan is a prerequisite to effective president. Future courts won't rule congressional challenges, so that the only actionable is the plan institutionalizes this mechanism, and the permutation means that we solve the only alternative causality he has gone for, means that both groups working together create an effective check our readiness argument. And when the courts go into presidential policy, it makes it extremely ineffective. Probably internal link turns any the readiness arguments probably makes the effective ability to respond extremely slow, and probably hamstrings the entirety of the military, which they've conceded internal link, which means there's a risk of the hedge advantage, which they've conceded solves back all nuclear war, which means they I don't want to say there's the kind of the beast of one is it doesn't change the culture of deterrence towards executive military action, which means that it will cause future abuses. Since the courts are inevitably a neutral body, they would not want to go against the president, since our Polito evidence now. Now the only other argument we need to go for is the cyber terror impact, which is the only route to survivability, because at least they conceded internally. I'll do a little more impact calculus here, but there's one other argument that makes that link to politics. The argument that Ellis says in the 2R that the counterplan functionally says, screw you, Obama, which means he doesn't backlash. This is the exact thing that the plan does in the entirety of the point of our link arguments. The plan has Congress increase its oversight over the president, which is a meta-framing issue for the entirety of the link debate on this question, because there is no reason that Congress would randomly backlash. If that is true about the courts, all of its SOP arguments have no impact. There's probably a greater impact to recognition, which means that all of their other arguments, like courts are a better decision maker, should be irrelevant. So you didn't read enough of that card. His only new argument about why courts don't link to politics was a new card in the 1AR concedes arguments that those new cards are relevant, which means that since we didn't read a card about that when the 1AR he shouldn't get, what about the 2 the politics is, and the case that wasted this, that they've conceded the cyber terror attacks are happening every day and absent in effective congressional oversight. We'll assume retaliate randomly sparking global war. This means that the app controls the only route to survivability, since they have no defense on this question. It's only a probability that we solve this question. Back to our Dykes and Campbell Evans, this time from values because it's irrational, could happen in a matter of days, whereas the debt ceiling doesn't happen until negotiation of vote, which takes months. They've conceded that the plan solves hegemony because it retains military activists who returns to trade, and growth will not collapse as the U.S. will keep waterways open and some hostile routes from breaking out. This George circuits into his interdependence analysis. We are not going for terrorism. Any of the arguments that growth turns are reasons the plan solves, also which means that they are not possibly offense for him answers. All of his arguments are above. No, there is no risk that this is sent to an argument concession. This issue means that you can vote on the turn. You can't vote on the turn states arguments with a high degree of skepticism. The AC, what if there is no internal link to collapse all of the rest exaggerate his stopgap measures have proven effective. That's the AP evidence. This evidence cites Baker and Rubin, who were former Treasury Secretaries, former congressional analysts, who means you prefer them over their main evidence, which is not really extended internally to the BC. What is imperial slow negative? The debt ceiling was delayed in 1985, 1995, and 2002 for multiple months. Yet the economy did not collapse and resulted in their impacts. This Tanner evidence, which default to empirical state, or the only way to make accurate predictions. Their main evidence is just alarmist political propaganda for action. These were conceded in the 2 armies. That there should be zero risk of this and now unique is overwhelmingly quickly. What is self-interest that way? The Congress and the one has no choice but to increase the ceiling. No recession will be by the Tea Party to give it to corporate card that's assured evidence that be supported. Obama has the leverage for the QB state. They will eventually get more than to make take evidence. He's subsuming more on this question. Is the 2 crossings proof that it is only a question of reputation or evidence in case that as long as the GOP pushes against Obama, then as long as it pushes against Obama, they will be able to gain the reputation back. Our evidence indicates that they will give it at the end, which is the subsuming more there. All of their evidence, Lincoln says all of their evidence indicates they will give it at the end. Now the link debate quickly. There is zero risk of link. I did some of this analysis above, but their evidence is terrible in this question. Their Congress evidence just talks about one right piece of funding. Their Kagan evidence is about Iran. We have a couple pieces of evidence that are much more specific to the plan. The overwhelming issue is that the Congress is increasing their authority. Our MIT evidence indicates this would be popular. AF and C evidence indicates that they have already voted for this. I think it's popular means we can only appear something like it.